good girl. If you would have met,
and
I
we
was like
know,
La Santa. But,
right, and we know from her familial
Yeah.
background that there is a morality perspective.
Yeah.
And maybe yours, because of the Jehovah Witness, there is
But
too.
I
But we
had
know
to do it.
specifically because she shared
I
so
had
much.
to do it, and because of my son, I'm where I'm at. That's what I like to say. But I also like to say that I wanted to come out of that, like, awesome. But I don't think I would have done it if my son was.
I just think
Well,
that
and there is a whole family perspective
Yeah, exactly.
and a family
So-
dynamic systems theories, and that's possibly why the whole family had to shift.
But I did it mostly because I was living with a crackhead, and he was easily giving it to me, and it was like, do it, do it, do it. Like, crack coke didn't do anything to me. I didn't feel shit.
no,
I
don't
just
like it.
I would sleep. I was lazy as fuck. I would.
It would
sleep
just
all
make
day.
me angry as fuck. That's
No, me it would calm me down. I went and got this tattoo on crack.
Oh shit.
So it was, and I was laughing with the dude. The dude had to ask me, "Can I take a break?" And I was like, "Go for it." I mean, but it didn't do me anything. But it's also because all throughout my life I've had medical issues, and I've been on freaking medications all my life. I have kidney problems, epilepsy, you name it, I have it. So it's also, like she said, family dynamics. My mom.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that.
In my
'Cause the
case,
family,
in my case,
It's different.
everybody else is addicted to something.
Yeah.
But my parents, the only thing that they like is like to drink on the weekends.
But
But
there's
my
definitely
parents
a
don't
judgment
smoke.
there.
My
Right.
parents
Here-
don't do anything, and I feel like I have this
Same.
face with my parents of, yeah, you guys don't do this stuff, me neither, but I
Yeah,
have
you
my
wanna act
diablito
exactly
here
so
so I
saying,
have a question.
Do
Does
it.
the Jehovah Witness, your parents are both Jehovah Witness?
well, they believe in it, but we're not baptized or anything.
Okay, but that's their
That's
religion
their
of choice,
belief, yeah.
so to speak. Is it allowed to drink in Jehovah Witness?
No.
No.
Okay.
It's not.
Interesting.
It's funny that you mentioned that because when I was doing it, obviously I was with my ex, and we were talking about, oh, we were watching The Nun, and I said, damn, I should have become a nun, and he's like, you have nothing that qualifies you as a nun. You do all the things that they tell you not to do. And I was like, well, because I didn't become a nun, but I'm sure if I did become a nun, I would be faithful to, to him and to his way. But that I'm not, then why not try stuff that, And he said, you're like the worst Jehovah's Witness that I've ever met. I'm like, because I'm not baptized. And while he was saying all that, and even before I took the pill and stuff, I was like, oh God, forgive me. I have to try it. Forgive me. Because the
But
whole...
hear the morality,
the whole-
and notice twice how we're not baptized.
Mm-hmm.
So that there's a justification around
There's
the
a
behavior.
door.
There's a door and a loophole
Just
out.
like you,
Yep.
just like her, when I was coming out of all my mental issues and all that, I promise, I literally went to a nun convent and told them I was going to become a nun. If God allowed me to come out. So it's like similar, but
Well,
not
those are
I-
bargaining.
Yeah.
And that's part of the grief. That's part of the grief, the death and dying, which is next month, right?
Next month,
Um,
Death and Dying.
When we cover death
Kubler-Ross.
and dying, Kubler-Ross's grief theory, where we bargain. And it's very common where God, I will fill in the blank,
Yeah.
do whatever disparate, like we pray and we'll, give up fish or chicken or whatever, we'll give up our last born, whatever it is, for if we get out of this. That's the bargaining technique.
Yeah.
But all of those are wrapped up in this morality. So according to the cognitive behavioral, it suggests that people take drugs to experience variety. For self-exploration, religious insights, and I want to share a story, altering moods, escape from boredom and despair, enhancement of creativity, performance, sensory experience, and pleasure. So have you guys ever heard of Timothy Leary?
Give me a little bit.
Way
of
too
background.
old for them.
They're old? Okay.
Way
Yeah.
too young. They're
Wait, so
way
you
too
guys
young.
are young. Okay. So Timothy Leary was a Harvard psychologist, and there was another guy named Richard Alpert, right? It was Richard Alpert?
Yes.
So Timothy Leary and Richard Alpert, and if you guys don't know the band, but there's a band named Moody Blues, and they have a song, I think it's Nights in White Satin is the song, and it mentions Timothy Leary, and so Timothy Leary and Richard Alpert decided that they were going to experiment with LSD. And they rented this house not too far from Harvard, and every night they would have these massive LSD orgy parties, okay? And they would raise their consciousness. Now you have to understand that this was in the name of science. CBT is very much, remember what I said, you start research, or you start basically at zero, you gather data, and then you have your results, and that's why CBT is like the most premier, sort of
I'm sorry,
psychology.
Franz, I don't know if you mentioned that Timothy Leary was a psychologist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Harvard
she mentioned
psychologist.
it. Yeah.
And he and Richard Alpert were the first two, I have to say first because I don't know if anyone since, were ever thrown out of Harvard. So I don't know if since then anyone's ever been thrown out, but they were the first two psychologists ever thrown out of Harvard. So they rented this house and they would have these major LSD parties night after night after night. And people started documenting their LSD trips. And they were having these like existential experiences, and it was all in the name of science, and it was all in the name of raising awareness and raising consciousness. And what happened was they get kicked out. Richard Alpert gets this opportunity to go to India. And he goes to India and he meets this guru, and the guru changes his life, and he becomes a yogi. And then he comes back to the United States, somewhere in upstate New York, and he creates like this big, his father I think was like the mayor or some big Congress guy or someone, I think it was the mayor of this area in New York, and he had all the yogis, and when you start seeing the flower children and the hippies, that's all Richard Alpert, and his name is, and I think he might have just died, Google that, Ram Dass, Ramdass. I highly recommend a book called Be Here Now. By Ram Dass. And he didn't die, he lives in Hawaii and he's about to die, but I think he died last year. Because he's super old.
He's not dead.
What?
He's not dead.
dead? Okay, well he lives in Hawaii, he's like probably 90-something now.
Well, he
And
gonna
I
die.
highly recommend it.
Yeah.
If you're into awareness and you're into mindfulness, Ram Dass is a guy to watch. And he's got a bunch of stuff, free stuff, all over the internet.
He's 87.
He's how old? 87. Okay, he's not even that old.
Yeah.
And this book called Be Here Now was a breakthrough. Basically the book on mindfulness where he talks about being present. And what he did was he brought all of the teachings of the yogis and he brought them to the States. So this whole thing of mindfulness and yoga and all of that, people started way long ago. Okay, this did not start now. This was a
Like
long
how
time
everyone
ago.
has it in their head that that shit is the new
New.
era.
This
No.
is so, it is way older
Oh,
than
yeah,
Ram Dass
yeah.
and way older than Be Here Now. Mind you, this is a science of thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. Then the Beatles.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Beatles went to India and studied with Ram Dass's same guru. And then they brought it to the West. And then, if the Beatles said it, it was the thing.
Yeah.
There's this documentary on Netflix called Wild Wild Country, and it is about a cult with a gentleman named Osho, O-S-H-O. Now, you all know that I grew up in a cult, so I am not country. And I highly recommend watching. If you can manage to watch the whole thing, I could not. It was too close to home for me. Watching it just gave me the heebie-jeebies because it just reminded me of how the cult life is. Cult life is very particular. And it has been called, Nellie, that Jehovah's Witness is kind of culty, so you might want to watch it to see if those type of things resonate. There's usually a leader, they brainwash you, and then people are like, fighting for certain position in the cult, and they're like kissing the leader's feet, and they're giving all their money, and there's certain tactics, so to speak. But anyway, Osho, a guru, yogi, these people similar. Ram Dass did not have that sort of cultish following, but a lot of people learned about mindfulness and learned about yoga and so forth because of the teachings of Richard Alpert, who changed his name to Ram Dass once he came back from India. So what was the difference between LSD and yoga?
It's legal.
Okay, well that's a good one. Yep.
That like the body is more in tune, it doesn't need like a chemical.
I would say the afterwards, the side effects of any
That
drug,
too,
then
yeah.
Okay,
the withdrawal.
so she's saying you don't need something to
Right,
alter
like-
your effects, you can bring your body there naturally,
Right.
and you're saying the side effects. Both are very valid answers.
Yeah.
So, part of the mechanism of mindfulness is exactly that. We are constructed as individuals to be able to bring ourselves to higher levels of awareness without something external. We don't need drugs or alcohol or LSD or ecstasy or cocaine or crack or whatnot, or even sex or gambling or food or any of these things to bring ourselves to these places of ecstasy, higher levels of consciousness. What we need to do is simply come to the present moment. What we simply need to do is breathe. What we simply need to do is get connected to mind, body, spirit. And then we don't suffer the altering effects of whatever it is we're choosing to do. That's what the difference is. Now you're the guy, you're the decision maker. If you believe that, then obviously you're going to treat your client in a way that's for mindfulness, and you're going to try to get them to do mindfulness activities. But not all therapists believe that. There are actual therapists that might encourage their clients to drink and smoke.
Yeah.
You could judge that as crazy, or you can judge that as healthy. I don't know. That's for you to decide.
Well, when weed comes legal, I'll have my therapeutic, what is it? Their area
Not me,
in my
Chris.
my consultation hour. Half of it it's okay. Let's get it. Here we go. Anyway, that's not what I was gonna say.
No, but you're stating that all of those substances except weed.
Yeah.
Your support for weed perhaps is cannabis is not a drug. And it's something supportive for the therapeutic
I'm better
relationship.
when I'm under weed. Like,
Okay.
I'm better at everything. Driving, God forgive me for driving under the influence, but even
But
my
listen to
cousin
that.
tells
God
me.
forgive me.
Even my cousin tells me I'd rather be in your car when you're high than when you're not high.
But why are you judging it?
Because it's bad. It's what I was taught
Okay,
that
but
it's
you
bad.
said
Whatever I do to my body that harms it in any way that I'm putting it extra that I'm not producing it myself, it's bad.
do you eat lettuce?
Yeah.
Is it bad?
No.
Okay. Who made lettuce?
Earth.
Okay. Who made cannabis?
But yeah, that's why I smoke it.
I'm not
That's
saying
why I
yes or
smoke
no.
it,
I'm
but-
not trying to change your mind. I'm just trying to question your own judgments. I want
That's the only
you to
reason why I smoke it.
question
Because it's
where
from
you
Earth.
have judgments.
Yeah.
It's from
Remember,
Earth.
values.
It's nature.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Whether you smoke or
nature.
not is no business of mine, and I'm not trying to get anyone here high. And it's not, but because there is this morality, which I totally can relate to, I want you to start, we have to question our judgments. And if it wasn't posing a problem for her, I wouldn't care. But we're seeing that it poses a problem. And the moment one of our judgments, one of our values pose a problem, it means it comes from the bad buckets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The moment a judgment poses a problem, it means that you were taught something that you don't believe.
Yeah.
You don't believe that cannabis is bad, but you say, God, forgive me, instead of saying, Mom, forgive me, because you don't agree with Mommy and Daddy and what they taught you. That is a conflict of values, people. This is what you're going to find in therapy. Over and over and over. When your client has a conflict of values, there is a problem. And the person that they have a value problem with is themselves and their parents, and I'm just going to put God. Their parents are God. Some authority. You guys know that Hebrew National ad, we answer to a higher authority? That's that. So I'm hearing that you have a conflict. If you didn't have a conflict, I could care less. Get stoned, get high all you want, or never. But you have something there to explore. And the reason that as a therapist you must explore that is that you could do harm if you don't explore it. You may never reconcile it. Don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean that we're going to solve all our shit. But she's got to be very clear that there is a judgment there around a value system that she disagrees with her parents. Her parents might say it's bad, which let me tell you, they really don't. With our parents, when we have conflict of values, it's do as I say, don't do as I do. That's the conflict that we have. We're watching our parents tell us, don't do that, but they're doing it. How the hell do we reconcile? You do it to your kids, I do it to my kids, you're going to do it to your kids, and they're going to be just as screwed up as all of us in here. And we need to become aware of that conflict. So I have no judgment around you doing whatever you want, but you have to question so that you don't harm a client.
I don't even know another judge to my left.
Of course, of course. And that's the thing. That's what we have to become aware of.
And also make sure that those questions are answered honestly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Don't use excuses. Don't cop out.
We must be answered.
You need
And that's
to be
one of the
honest.
things about group therapy. Groups allow us to hear all our lies. That's why I love groups. Because we hear the bullshit we're saying. One-on-one, we might. But in groups, man, we hear all the lies we tell ourselves.
We try to be perfect in front of everyone
Totally.
else. We want to be the example.
Totally.
What did Carl
And
Young
it
say?
comes out-
We wear a
I
mask.
hate that shit. That's why I'm a bitch, because I keep it to Yeah, I've been told that. They're like, yo, like...
But even that's a mask.
That's a mask.
Yeah, I know it is.
Because you're a bad
Yeah,
Pando Gloria.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
even
mask.
that's a mask.
Of course.
And that's the beauty of groups. And really, Schopenhauer Cure, that's such a great book. I'm so glad that this cerebral thought reminded myself of it. Okay, learning models. So another model is the learning model. What do we know about learning? What happens in learning? What are we doing here?
Learning from your mistakes.
Okay.
Yeah, learning from your
If we can learn something, what does that mean?
you can teach it to the next person in a better way, I guess.
But if we can learn something, we can,
You can,
okay, experience is part of learning, but if we can learn something,
We can repeat it?
we can
take the good out of it.
If I'm unraveling the sweater, I can unlearn it. The belief of learning theory is if I can learn it, I can unlearn it. So theorists that believe in learning say that whatever has been learned, addiction, can be unlearned. It believes that you can decrease anxiety, stress, tension, and provides positive reinforcement to the user. But the negative is they want to avoid withdrawal. What happens when you want to avoid withdrawal?
You keep doing what you're
You
doing.
keep doing it. So the drawback of learning theory is, well, I don't want to feel the withdrawal of the cocaine or the alcohol. Oh my God. Hell that. I'm going
The
to keep
hangover,
chugging at
you keep
it.
drinking.
Yeah.
And isn't that the antidote? Have a beer? Isn't that the freaking antidote to the hangover? Have a beer. Drink on top of the drink. So, with learning theory, yes, you can unlearn something, so they say, but if the person doesn't want to suffer a consequence, they will just continue repeating. Think of the rat. You know in learning theory that all those experiments with the rat hits the lever and they get the sugar, and the rats like go crazy, or they have the cocaine and they get, that's all we are. The learning theory believes that cocaine or drinking or whatever, it's that we are like rats and we're just hitting the lever, getting more and more and more and more. Now, good, you can take away the stimulus. Remember this from Psychology 101? You can take away the stimulus, but you're going to have a withdrawal.
But that's part of your learning process. Because if you learn that this is going to hurt, maybe you won't do it again.
Right.
Because you'll remember the hurt.
How many of you believe this when it comes to addiction? That it's that simple?
It's not. It's not.
What about you? Because you're really testing will there.
It's not.
You think that that's part of your determination? To not be
Avoiding
an
that.
addict? Adriana, can I have your tissue?
Of course.
I guess. What I was gonna say earlier, and then we started the whole how my sessions are gonna go.
She's gonna have sessions.
Like,
Sessions.
this is extra. Are you sure you want to do? Anyways, what I was gonna say earlier is that I believe that the only reason why I don't become addictive to all this other stuff that I've tried, it's because when I'm under that influence, I don't really have full control of myself. Meaning, like, things that I do, my facial expressions, stuff like that. And I like to have control over everything in my life. And which is bad, which is why I take that as an escape.
You're
take that
scared.
as
I'm sorry to say this, but you're scared and you want to escape your own scares.
Yeah.
And I was like that. Trust me. I know. I know where you're coming from. And
trying to avoid withdrawal, the only thing that comes to mind, because I'm not, for that part, like, I'm not scared of, like, just stop smoking, stop doing stuff, because I've been clean for months, if not years. Like, I don't care about that. The only thing that, like, when you guys were talking about it, my mind just kind of went there, is, which is another one of my addictions, I would say. It's love. So
Now listen to the word. Another one of my addictions.
yeah.
So she might be able, and you might resonate with psychodynamic, she might be able to control the drugs and the alcohol.
But not who I love.
But do you really have control of the emotions?
I don't. And when you said
Third.
avoid withdrawal, that's me. I'd rather keep giving you chance after chance, even though I know I'm gonna end up hurting, because that's just what happens every time I give you a chance. Then
I found my twin.
And let's be very
Well,
clear.
let me show you.
She texted me at like 1:30. She's like, I don't want to give him a chance, but I want to give him a chance.
And this is what I spend my night doing.
So I think you might resonate with psychodynamic. Now, let's be very clear. Addiction is not solely related to drug and alcohol abuse. We understand this,
Addicted
right?
to food.
It could be food, it could be gambling, it could be sex. Of course, it could be an
Boys,
addiction
men.
of emotion.
Relationship.
Psychodynamic models links addictions to ego deficiencies, inadequate parenting, you know I love this, attachment disorders, hostilities, linked to difficulties in childhood, of course, because everything's the fault of the parents. Just go back to
We are
Oregon.
all addicted.
We're all addicted. And who remembers what I said about addiction from the womb? I have my own theory.
Yeah. Oh,
The child-mother triad?
Yes, but what did I talk about?
Yeah, it's something about the mother and
The
yeah, the
umbilical
water.
portion.
Yes.
Yeah,
The what?
the water.
What's happening in here?
Oh, Professor Bursa wanted to talk to the class about the essay competition.
Oh, great. Okay, let's
just
pause that.
pause.
Let's just talk.